Today we welcome back our very beautiful friend and intuitive energy healer, Sherri Divband. Hey Sherri, welcome back.
Sherri. Hi, so nice to see you again.
I know,
too, Sherri.
We've seen you in between time, but the audience haven't seen us all together because we haven't done a video in a little while. And that's because we've all been very busy working on projects for the Aramis Creative Learning Centre and also the Aramis Collective, which you have actually just launched the new non-profit, the website for that. And we'll talk all about that as we go through the video because it's very exciting and one of the biggest things that's happened over the past couple of weeks. So we're keen to talk about that. But to start off the video, we have a couple of messages. Well, I know that you have a couple of messages that you want to share from sessions that you've had. And we have a couple of other little bits and pieces that we want to discuss with you. And then we'll get into an update all about the Aramis Creative Learning Centre and where we're at with the teachers and the hiring as well for the Australian and the USA position. So some exciting developments there.
All right. So I guess we'll call it a concept, but the concept of dissociation, which is you mentioned to us, is essentially the soul disconnecting from the body. And you said that you have been seeing this a lot in your sessions. So did you want to go into a little bit more detail about that for our audience and also why it's happening so much right now?
Yeah, it's a really good topic right now. And I think that a lot of people are experiencing it, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Because I have been seeing, this is something that's not new. So I want to be clear about it. I'll explain exactly what it is. But we are seeing it more now than ever before, I think for a lot of reasons. One, because of the ascension, one, because of fear and doubt and worry that we're experiencing in this reality right now. But then also we have so many new souls that have come into the planet that are not used to Earth, the star seeds, whatever we want to call them. And they're having a really hard time right now. And so I really started seeing this the most actually with children. I would say a good 25-30% of the children that I work with. And remember, when I say children, I also mean youth. So anywhere from very young age, couple of years to their 20s, early 20s. I still consider them children. I still feel like I'm a child and I'm in my 40s. So I don't know, it's relative, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm not an adult yet. And I'm like, when's that going to happen?
Totally.
But so I started noticing it a lot with the children that I work with and the characteristics of dissociation. Well, let me explain it first. So as we all know, we have our soul that lives an infinite amount of time, and our soul will inhabit a physical body. We refer to it in a lot of different ways, avatars, we have all these different names for it. But essentially, there's two components to us living on this earth in a physical body. We have the energy component, the metaphysical, and then we have the physical, and that's all connected through energy. Some people refer to it as our energy lifeline, our energy, our life force energy. Some people see it as a silver cord. Some people see it as a white cord. It all means the same thing. And when we experience traumas in our life that our soul is not used to, our soul can separate from the physical body because it doesn't want to experience that. This happens a lot, by the way, in newborn babies. So newborn babies, they disassociate a lot because they can. Because when you're born, you're so connected to source, to the etherical realm, the astral realm, that you can disconnect and kind of be in two different places at once. Babies can literally separate and watch themselves being held by their mother or their father. And they do this because they don't really like to be babies. So they can kind of play around and come in and come out. But then when they start to get a little bit older, they have to ground into their body. You have to do that in order to really, truly integrate with your physical body. And so that really, truly happens. It happens in phases, but when a child is around 5-6 years old, that integration really starts to manifest, and their energy really starts to become one with the physical body. And that's why a lot of children see a lot of things, know a lot of things, are very psychic. And then suddenly they turn 6 years old or 7 years old and they turn it off because they realize they're in a reality where perhaps not everybody else is seeing angels or seeing things in the sky or able to communicate telepathically. And so they learn to adapt in their environment. And the way they do that is really being in the present moment and kind of disconnecting from those other abilities that, you know, in other star systems and other planets, when we have more evolved beings, that's what they do normally. But here on Earth, it's a different experience because it's more physical. And so when we have it, let's say a child has a trauma at a young age, they will, let's say they're abused by their parents frequently, they will learn to disassociate. They will take themselves out, and because their soul doesn't want to experience that trauma. And so that's why a lot of people forget experiences. It gets buried deep down in the subconscious. It never goes away. It's always within your records, but you don't remember it consciously because it's pushed back so far. And that has a lot to do with the disassociation, the separation of the soul from the body. Not completely, because if you disconnect all your life force, then you would die. So it's just enough that the soul doesn't experience. Another example of this is when somebody gets drunk and they black out. Everybody has heard of somebody, maybe not everyone has had this experience, but everyone knows about someone who has gotten so drunk, they blacked out. And then the next morning they have zero recollection of what they have done, good or bad, doesn't matter. You know, they slept with somebody, they're like, I don't remember it, or did terrible things. And that's because when the soul is in a body that is out of control and goes to a vibration that's too low, or that they feel that they can't control themselves, with psychedelic drugs, this can happen with alcohol, with other illicit drugs, the soul will detach because it does not like that feeling of not being in control. And so that's why a lot of people do things that they wouldn't normally do, because they're now vulnerable to influence from entities and other energies kind of taking control momentarily. And that's why they don't remember it. Now that's an extreme example, but we have the ability innately, all of us, every single human has the ability innately to do this. We just aren't consciously aware that we're doing it a lot of the time. So what I've noticed is children are doing this more now than ever before, because not because of trauma necessarily, but because they are so feeling so disconnected to this reality. They're not from here. This is their first time here, or maybe they've only been here a few times, and the density is really difficult for them to navigate through. They don't like the physical body. It's very heavy, and they don't feel like they can just, move around like they want to. Our language is very limiting. They're very sensitive to other people's energies, because that's a unique characteristics of human beings on this planet, is that we have such a large variety, so to speak, of emotional energies, from fear and guilt and shame, like the lowest ones, all the way to joy and everything in between. There's such an abundance of emotional experiences that we can feel, and those children are sensitive to that because they're not used to it. They're also not used to aggressive people or really traumatic situations, or school, being with a lot of people, or being bullied, or being around mean teachers. And so they will disassociate. They will pull themselves out, and they will become a shell of themselves a lot of the time. Some of the time, just depends on the severity of the situation, where children, I've worked with a lot of varieties where children will do it when they're at school, and the teacher will say, they're not there. Like, it's like they're daydreaming all the time. They're not retaining any information. They don't remember anything we've said, but they're looking at me, but they're not actually there with me. Or parents will say, my child comes home and they become very disconnected. They're not acting themselves. They're very numb. They feel, it's not even that they're severely depressed or have high anxiety. It's just like, they're just kind of just numb. And it's like, they're not there. And the parents are like, hello, is anybody in there? Where did you go? And then the child will randomly come back, and then they're like, well, oh, where have you been? And it's like this weird thing, this like weird phenomenon. And I started noticing it for the past few years, that this is a thing. And I noticed it more and more. And the teenagers are experiencing it as well, because they're having trouble trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. They're very stressed out. They don't want to go to college, but they don't want to disappoint their parents. So they begin to just disassociate from life in general. It's like their soul is like, I don't really like this place. I'm not thriving here. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't have friends. I don't, and then they just start to disassociate as much as possible. They disconnect. And that's becoming a huge problem for parents and teachers in the community, to figure out, how do we navigate through this? And I've also noticed it a lot with adults, and are the ones that have been awake for quite some time. or the ones that are recently awake, and they feel like they're ready to do something and move forward with their life, but the world isn't quite ready for that yet. So they're in that in-between state of realities where they know they want to change the old, they want something new, but they don't quite know what that is yet. And they get frustrated, and then they feel isolated, they feel alone, they don't have any friends that understand or they can relate to, and they just start to disassociate. They become, and the adults are different than children. The adults are the ones that truly become depressed. They're very anxiety, they have a lot of anxiety, they have fatigue, they feel tired, they have no motivation to move forward. They just feel stuck and numb and in their own way. And so I've been working with a lot of adults and children with this phenomenon, let's call it. And really the solution is different for everybody that I've noticed. It's really just dependent on the age, the sex, even gender, and kind of the soul's interest in how, because the idea is that when you are disassociated, the soul is up here, avatars down here, there's a disconnect, and the solution, so to speak, or the way we fix that is to ground the person. They need to be grounded, because the soul is floating around up here saying, I don't want to be in this reality. I'm just going to hang out up here and I'll come down when I feel safe. I worked with an autistic boy a couple of months ago who had, I don't want to get us in trouble, but had some injuries from previous, and it shook his body, his soul so much because of the reaction that the body had, that he disassociated from his body and didn't come back for 10 years. And I worked with him, and he told me exactly what happened. And he said, I'm not coming back in until I feel like my body shifts in completely different frequency, in a completely different resonance. And the soul literally was telling me, I'm not coming back. So you need to help me fix my body. And so we worked, and we were doing a lot of different things, biofeedback, and I recommended biofeedback, and a whole bunch of other things, acupuncture, clearing toxins from the body, heavy metals, all sorts of things like that. So some of them are kind of aware of what they're doing, and then some of them have no idea what's going on. And it can be quite scary for people and children to be like, because they don't know what they're doing a lot of the times. And so they're feeling really afraid and frustrated, and the parents are frustrated and afraid, and they don't know what to do. And so I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention today that's watching this, or that may watch this, that, if you're experiencing this, or your child is experiencing this, or perhaps both are experiencing this, there is a solution, and there is a reason why, and not to freak out about it, and just figure out how you can reel yourself back in, or what does bring your child joy. What can you do to ground them? Some of them, it's music that brings them back. Some of them, they're very creative and artistic, and that will bring them back momentarily. Some of them need to be out in nature, and that will bring them back. Some of them, it's just different. I mean, I can't give you one particular solution, because I've noticed as I've worked with different children, we figured out different ways based on the child's personality, where they live, the demographic, all of that. So there's a variety of solutions, but it is a real thing right now. Have you guys experienced that? Anything like what I've said?
Well, I think I probably have done that for parts of my life, definitely. And from what you're saying, Sherri, it does seem to be something that is affecting very highly sensitive people, because they have psychic abilities. And I guess the work for highly sensitive people in this life is to be able to ground themselves to the point where they're not affected by other people's energies. So they've got the grounding, but they still have those other psychic abilities.
That's exactly right. It's the balance. It's acclimating to this world, this frequency that we're in, but also bringing in their gifts, because that's why they're here. So when they come here, sometimes it's such a shock to them that they don't know how to use their body or use their vessel. They get overwhelmed, and then they become stuck, and they become lost. And that's what I try to do when I work with them, is try to help them figure out how to balance the energies so that they can tap into their gifts, because that's why they're here, to help us model those gifts.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to chop in and say one thing. You said a lot of the people that are experiencing this are newborns that are coming into the world, but also obviously this can be triggered off by poisons in the body. So whether it's through this, and it may have been through past ones. So this has obviously been happening to the world in the past for many, many years. It's just that at the moment we've seen a real push on all of this. So it's become very obvious as to what the agenda is. But this has obviously been going on just slowly in the background. But also you mentioned that the alcohol poisoning. So some people are very sensitive, obviously, to alcohol and drugs, while maybe other people that dabble in those things are able to process that a little bit better. Their bodies can do that. But you would say that this concept of dissociation is definitely triggered by poisons or chemicals in the body for some people that are sensitive.
Yeah, and I want to be clear to it. It's not just the new souls coming in. People that have had hundreds of lives here can disassociate. They just don't realize that they're doing it. They don't have a name for it. They're not understanding why they're walking around feeling so numb, so disconnected. Suddenly they don't care about anything anymore. And they may go to a doctor and they say, oh, you have depression. Let me put you on this medication. And it has nothing to do with that. The soul is just longing for something different. The soul is longing for the body to be in a higher vibration. But unfortunately, that vibration is controlled by the conscious mind, because that is the physical body that the soul has chosen. And the mind is in control of that. And if there's a disconnect, the soul can't get the messages through to the conscious mind, to eat better, to stop drinking, to try this, to be more happy, and that sort of thing. And so a lot of the adults are having disassociation, not because they're not used to this world, it's for other reasons. And then the newer children are doing it because they're like, ugh, I don't like it here. And they resist. And I'm telling you, these children are really having a rough time. Like, they don't want to leave their house. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to be around any other children. They have reached a point of depression because they are just so unbelievably homesick and don't want to be here. And that's the challenging part, is trying to convince them to recognize what's going on first and foremost. And sometimes that helps a lot. I mean, when they're old enough to understand what's going on, when it's explained to them in that way, they get it. And then that's when we find tools to say, okay, what can we do to bring joy back into your life? Some parents have decided to homeschool, and that has helped a lot. Some have changed their diet completely and gotten rid of the fast foods and the processed foods, and that's helped a lot, being on more of a pure diet, things like that. So this is so dynamic that there isn't really one solution. And it's also not caused by one thing. It's just kind of a name to describe something that's happening to a lot of people across the board, no matter their age or where they live or how many lives they've had.
Mm. Yeah, I can fully relate to what you're saying, Sherri. When I was growing up, I just had such a sensitivity to my outside world that, I definitely needed to sort of be at home a lot and in comforts and around light things and anything that made me feel just nice. Yes. And like a softness around me is what I always was craving. And I was really lucky to find dancing when I was very young. So that saved me a lot in my life, because it was just this creative outlet. And it's the one thing still in my life that I turn to release my stuck energy. And it's the one thing that I connect with that really brings me back to the real person that I am, without anything affecting me from the outside. And that's how I reconnect back to myself. But I can definitely relate to all the things that you're sort of talking about, because our environment's been so harsh. But as I moved through my life, I did notice, just bit by bit, I didn't have a Sherri helping me with my life, but bit by bit I kind of had to learn to, I don't know, I think it was a subconscious thing, but every year that sort of went by, I found myself actually feeling just this feeling that came over me, just very subtle, this groundedness that kept coming in, and I was able to deal with more things, and I was able to be in situations that 10 years before I could never be in, and just these things subtly came into my life where I could actually handle them, and I wasn't reacting in a bad way. So for me, it was a very slow process to kind of bring myself back. Maybe I was disassociated for a whole long period of time because I had a trauma at 11, and then I had to kind of bring myself back. Would you say that through these traumas and the harshness of our world right now, and for these young people especially, obviously the work is to bring, body and soul back together. Are we sort of stopping our evolution if we're putting that off, or is that all good and we're just having to just bit by bit find our way, each individual?
I mean, personal evolution?
Yeah, yes. I feel like, is this disassociation stopping our soul evolution? It's sort of like putting it off and sort of avoiding it in a sense.
That's a good point. And I could see how it could. But remember, we live in a linear time here on Earth. Outside of here, it's only moments of time, glimpses of periods of time. So, our soul and our angels and our soul team has ways to get our attention and get us out of our funks sometime. And that's how you found dance that helped you. I was an only child, and I was super shy, and I was like a big nerd and dorky, and nobody, people were mean to me. And I know that what saved me were animals. Yeah. My dog Chelsea, I had a German Shepherd when I was young, and she was my entire world and my best friend. And I talked to her, and she saved me. Not that anything bad was going to happen. I don't mean that. I had good parents. It wasn't anything like that. But giving me that, she was what grounded me, what made me feel safe, and I developed that love and connection to animals. And so the universe is always trying to shed light or show us avenues of getting out. But a lot of time it's in our own head. We get stuck in our own head because we become disconnected from our soul, and we don't listen to our intuition. Mm-hmm. And so I think that where we are moving now is in true ascension is evolution. And I think that because there's so much going on in our world and there's so much duality. I mean, imagine how much duality there is now more than ever before, or not ever before, but in our time frame that we've lived on this planet, where there truly is a divide. There is such a clear divide, and everyone knows what I'm talking about with this division. And now it's time to say, okay, we need to put this division down, and we need to really reflect on an individual basis. I talked about this the other day on an interview I did, and I got a message from Archangel Michael, because I was like, what's the delay? A lot of people are frustrated. And he told it to me pretty frankly. He said, listen, Sherri, you live on a planet of free will, and we cannot make people wake up. We cannot make one side go to the other, because it's not about sides. That's the issue. You guys need to stop choosing sides and just work on yourself as an individual people and heal from a soul level, which is what I'm trying to help people do. But he said, until we do that, and enough of the collective is awakened and wants that and is asking for it. You know how many people on the planet are in abusive, narcissistic relationships, and they stay because they choose to, because it's safe and familiar to them, and the fear that they have of going out and seeing what else is out there sometimes is crippling. So if you think about that in a humanitarian level, with all those people that are not awake, it's hard. It takes work to be a good person. It takes work to stay in the light. It takes work to heal yourself. And I hear this from my clients all the time. Sherri, this is really hard. Well, no shit. It's hard for me too. I work every single day, and I have my moments where I break down. Like, I am not this put together, all-knowing woman that is all like, I can do everything. Like, I put on a facade that I work really hard, but like, I have moments in the shower where I break down and I cry, or I have doubts in myself. Like, can you actually do what you're saying you're going to do? Because I'm a human being and I have that right. That's my free will to have that emotional experience. But it's about how you can remain in control. I'm able to control it because I have worked so hard on my healing that I recognize the triggers, and then I immediately shake myself out of it by doing a variety of things, exercising, hugging. Honestly, just hugging my kids brings me right out of it, because they remind me of what I'm doing, and I'm like, snap out of it, But it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort, and not everybody wants to do it. And they're in denial, and they're in that we're in such an illusionary matrix of fear, and it's not real. It's in here, and we need to move. And part of our evolution is starting to tap into other senses and see with our third eye. Stop looking out of these two physical eyes, because that is the issue with that is it's ambiguous and it's different for everybody. Carly and Julia can have two completely different experiences doing the exact same thing based on what Carly sees and what Julia sees. It could be completely different. But if you look through the third eye and you tap in energetically, I believe that all of humanity would see the exact same thing, but because we're so programmed to be stubborn and we work from the ego, we forget that. And then we have judgment and ridicule and conflict. And so that's what Michael was saying, until we get out of that, we are going to continue to be delayed because we cannot make people wake up. And so there is that notion of, okay, we need to do, and that's why I'm out, and that's why you guys do what you do, and the millions of other people out there that are genuinely not caring about likes or fame or money, but are actually doing this so that they could help wake somebody up, who then hopefully wakes somebody else up in their family, and so on. That's how we do it. That's how we spread the light. And it's not easy. But I think that, to answer your question, I don't think that it's bypassing anything. I think it's just encouraging us to shift the way we live and integrate that mind, body, and soul, because that's where we're headed.
I think, obviously the three of us have done a lot of this work most of our lives, and we've been faced with these situations where we've had to do it, we've had to step up and do that inner work. Do you think that people that are still asleep will be a lot more forced, like soon, because we've kind of done it over years of time, and that has taken time, and we do commit to this every single day. It's something that we have to do because we're highly sensitive, because we've had these experiences when we've been younger. I remember at that point when I was 11, I realized that this was my life's purpose, just to work all of this out and understand my soul and understand what a soul purpose is, and to help my family. That's what I was told right back then. And I was never interested in, just, normal jobs or money or like just what everyone else seemed interested in. I was like, oh, I don't even care about this. Like, why is this job important, or whatever it is? It just was never something that was important to me. So I felt that was really hard for me. But the people that are sort of still stuck in that money, fame bubble, do you think they will get a shock, soon to push them along? Otherwise, it'll take them years.
I would hope so. I think so. I want to believe so. Okay, I changed my answer. I don't know. I'm not God. I'm not all knowing, but I do have this trait about myself that I give people a lot of credit, and I want to trust people, and I don't trust people, but I want to trust people. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I really truly believe that in people, that we can get there. Not everybody, perhaps. But I think that a lot of people are going to start to see, and I think it has a lot to do with different things. I think astrologically, as the planetary shifting occurs and the frequency of the planet starts to elevate and raise in frequency, and because there's two ascensions happening. There's individual, where each individual person on this planet is going through their own spiritual awakening and raising in frequency, right? And then there's a collective one, and they both influence one another, but they're different. And I think that the more of us that are awake and spreading our light, it will hopefully go over to the people that are not. And that collectively, with the Earth's energy and the planetary energy and a collection of things, will start to wake them up. And, and that's, and I believe that will happen, because about a year or so ago, when I was, or more than that, I was told, we need to get ready to help people get into a position where they can help humanity as it awakens, because historically, you can look back in our linear time and see that we go through phases of awakenings, and then those people help the next people, and then there's another awakening, and those people go and help those people, and so on. It comes in phases. And right now, I think we're in one of those phases where someone like myself has been working diligently for the past for 10 years, but more than ever before in the last year and a half, to teach people Reiki and healing and intuitive development and all sorts of different modalities, so that they are ready and armored spiritually to then, as their family and friends in their reach start to wake up, they can help them. And then who knows what they'll inspire within their family and friends to then learn what they learn, because they want to help people. That's how we do it. That's why when someone tells me, what can I do? I'm just one person. It really hurts me, because everybody matters. Every single person on this planet matters. And every person on this planet has the ability to affect change or contribute to the negativity. It's their choice. I don't believe you can be neutral at this point. You have to do something one way or the other. And so I feel like, that's kind of where we're at. Which side are you going to, and I don't mean duality side, but how are you going to contribute to this ascension? Are you helping or are you hindering at this point? And not so much a side, good or bad, just, how are you contributing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we know that it was really just kind of by accident that we ended up doing the channel and how that sort of came about. But having said that, though, it was obviously meant to be our soul's purpose. And both of us knew as young children, Julie's talked about it before, and I always knew that I had a higher purpose than just doing just the daily stuff, things that you're expected to do as a child, and then as a young adult, and then as an adult. I knew that there was more to life that I personally had to do. And obviously it has a lot to do with helping people and helping others. And I just didn't know which box that was going to fit in and how that was going to look. But that has become a lot more obvious over the past year or so. And I know it has for you as well, Sherri. I know that you didn't anticipate being online and creating videos and doing all this work in this kind of format. Yes, you've been doing work like this for many years now, and you're fantastic at it, and people love the work that you do, but you didn't expect to be in this format. So it's really, I guess, beautiful in a sense how it's kind of come about. And I guess, the percentages are changing. More people are waking up. You can see that, you can feel that. It is very different. We feel different this time this year as we did this time last year. So things are changing. Yes, it might seem slow to people, but look, it took us all, numerous years to develop our intuitive abilities and to believe in them as well, and to have that sort of confidence. So these people might be getting more of a crash course, I think, just with what's going on. So maybe we can look at it like that. Sherri, the next point we wanted to turn our attentions to, and I know you wanted to talk about it, was you want to talk a little bit more about ascension symptoms, and perhaps maybe some of the more severe ascension symptoms that people are experiencing. And there's one particular one we wanted to talk about, but we'll let you start off first, and just, I guess, reminding people how to cope with these things and what to do during this time.
Yeah, the ascension symptoms are pretty uncomfortable, to say the least. But one that has been pretty big that I've noticed, and this is happening to myself as well, is sensitivity to hearing. It's a big one because as our senses are starting to become heightened. So our sense of smell might be more sensitive. Our hearing, our knowing, we're tapping into other areas of our senses that we haven't necessarily been using before, or maybe you have your whole life, but most people haven't. And for me, I noticed recently, my hearing is so sensitive that things that I'm a master tuner outer, if that's even a word, because I worked in animal hospitals for most of my young life. And it's barking, screaming, howling. I'm a master at tuning everybody out. So when I started having children and they started crying, like it didn't bother me. I could tune them out pretty easily. And then all of a sudden, like recently, I mean, it literally hurts my head when I hear like the kids start screaming or fighting with each other, or I'm in a car with people and they're talking loudly, and I'm just like, oh my God, like it physically hurts, like to my core. I don't even know what word to describe it, because there isn't one to really truly explain it, but it's uncomfortable and it hurts, and it's really awful. And when I started talking to my clients, I noticed they're having the exact same thing. They're like, oh my God, me too. And I was like, yeah, this is crazy. I don't have a solution for that for those of you feeling it, but I can tell you, I'm right there with you. I feel you. It's awful. Aside you putting earplugs in, there isn't much you can do about that. But that one is a big one. I think vertigo is another one.
Dizziness. Yeah.
Just
Dizziness,
on
and
the hearing, Sherri, is it the vibration or is it more the sort of piercing sounds, or just because I know that
that's a good point. It's like the vibration, like it comes inside and like shakes my head.
Yes, that's what happens to me. Yes.
Yes.
I wake up with that. I wake up in, I reckon it's been about 3 or 4 years I noticed it. And I thought it was planes taking off, because I thought it was aircraft planes taking off, but then I realized it wasn't. So
well, as you raise in frequency, and your senses become heightened, you start to hear things that, or become in tune with things that you'd never heard before. So it could be all sorts of different things that you're hearing. But so because it's so fine tuned, imagine something next to you that's loud. Oh my God, when the dog barks, like I want to jump out of my skin. And I'm like, how can I live in this world? I can't even, I'm becoming one of those people that needs to put like a hoodie and like go and hide somewhere. And I don't want to do that. But when I started talking to other people, I think it just made me feel better to know like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. And I'm like, oh, not everyone. A lot of people are experiencing that, which for me, it triggers headaches. So a lot of people are getting pressure headache, tension headaches, things like that. People are very dehydrated right now. People need to drink more water, because that's a huge one. Because when we have more energy coming through our body, it activates us. And we are losing, we're not able to retain as much of the water that we're taking in. So we need to rehydrate. Water, of course. People who are still drinking sodas, I don't know how to help you, honestly. Like I stopped drinking soda like plus 10 years ago.
It's so 1980s.
Yeah, like why do we even have soda anymore? I don't know. And the Gatorade and the kids' juices, they're all the same thing. But limiting caffeine, reduce alcohol, like things like that, because our body really needs, like what we eat and drink right now is more important than ever before, because our body is changing and it's letting you know, I don't like what you just ate, and it's going to cause a reaction, whether you have, diarrhea or stomach ache, or, or you feel heavy. Our bodies are starting to talk to us and tell us what you need. You start to have cravings, like you're pregnant, for those of you, I had cravings and I needed to eat a bunch of something, or you're put off by other things. It's a similar thing. Your body you're becoming in tune, and your body's saying, I want this, I don't want this. That's really important right now, what we do with our bodies. The other one I think is the one that you guys are talking about. And the reason for it, and I'll get into it in a second, is our actual eyes are changing. So what we see is shifting. And what I mean by that is the colors are becoming more vibrant. Imagine those old black and white TVs back in the day, and how it went through phases of black and white to color to HD to 4K to whatever K we're at now. I have no idea, but it's enhanced. Your vision is becoming more enhanced. And I'm not saying like suddenly people who have glasses don't need them anymore, although I know a few people who that happened to. Yes. But the colors are shifting, the intensity, or colors you've never seen before, or it's almost like people can look up in the sky and they can see stuff that's there that wasn't there before, like I don't even know what the word is to describe it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So as a result of that, some people are looking at themselves and saying, my skin looks different. I've had several clients, probably like 4 at this point, that have told me that they swear their skin is shimmering. Mm-hmm. or it's not shimmering, but it's almost like iridescent in some ways, depending on, and it's not because of the light or anything like that, or the sun. And other people have said that their skin appears like the shades, like my skin tone, like it might fluctuate in the tone relative to what I look like now, but it shifts. So there's a lot of, and I think that has a lot to do with the eyes and how they're changing and how we see ourselves, because who's to say exactly what my skin color looks like to either one of you and vice versa, and how I see you. Again, it's all perception. It's all how our eyes see it. And so that's starting to change. And now we're actually seeing things from a higher density. And so it's shifting. So that's pretty cool. I think those are the main ones I want to talk about. I mean, we all know that the other ascension symptoms we've talked about before can mimic the flu, which a lot of people had within the last 3 months. And I was told very clearly that was an opportunity for people to purge toxic energy. And it was a good thing. You know, it's not a bad thing when there's such misconceptions about virus. And it's really, truly our body's way of detoxing. Once we get to a point in our body where it needs to release toxic energy, or from the foods we eat, or just anything that's not serving our body's highest good and causing disbalance, the body will do things to release it. That's why we get stomach bugs, and we have diarrhea or vomiting, or we have fevers in our body, or massive sweating when we're detoxing, because our body is so intelligent that it knows what to do. And so when we have viruses and it takes us out, sometimes we need that 4 days of rest and sleep, because otherwise we would be at work 40 hours that week or 60 hours or whatever. And we won't take the time to rest. So our body will make us rest when it needs to. And that's a big ascension symptom right now, because we are purging toxic energy.
Yeah. So obviously ascension symptoms are specific to individuals as well. So there might be something that a lot of people seem to have, like a lot of people might have the tummy issues, or they might be getting the dizziness. There might be a lot of ones that sort of cover off a lot of people. But like, for example, ringing ears. I've had ringing ears, and I think it started in around 2016. That's when I first started noticing it. And that, kind of ties in with astrologically where we are, where the planet and the solar system is in the galaxy right now. We are receiving a lot more light onto the Earth and into our solar system. It's just the photon belt of where we're traveling right now. And this is a 2,000-year phase. So I guess, we can expect some of these symptoms to continue as all of this light is bombarding the Earth. So it has a lot to do with the astrological impacts as well. But I want to say that was something that I personally experienced. And I know a lot of doctors over the years have referred to it as tinnitus. And I was actually a viewer the other day that said that maybe they've been referring to that as that thing because they didn't know what else to call it, and they were always trying to give it a medical term, when really it was just people having, finding a reason, there was things to tune into their intuition, signals for you to be, okay, something's going on out there. There's something happening in the universe. You need to tune into this. I'm still working on exactly what these signs are for me, or what it means when I hear those sounds, because sometimes it goes on for a couple of weeks in a row, and I have it all day, all night.
And it gets very tiring.
It drains me. But then I wanted to quickly touch back onto something that we personally haven't experienced as yet, but a friend of ours had the sparkly skin. So she had noticed, this has just come up recently in the last, I think, month or so.
I thought it was light, the extra light coming in, and then into the body, then being absorbed, like a shining.
Yeah, you explained it as, well. We definitely wanted to touch on that for her and to give her a shout out today. I know she'll be watching this video, but she was asking us and thinking, oh, is this weird? But she had done research and found that it was indeed an ascension symptom. So there are so many things affecting people individually, but I guess it will become more prevalent, as we move through this whole phase. And
I think it makes people feel more at ease when we talk about this, because they're, I can relate to that. And that makes people feel like, okay, it's not just on my own going through this. But I liked how you sort of described the eyes changing. That's really interesting, and your perception of how you perceive things, because that makes sense to me with the skin. But also with the eyes, it's funny because I wear contacts, and Carly's been saying to me lately, just stop wearing them. And I was sort of feeling that as well, maybe about a year ago, because I feel like my sight's going to change. Like it's going to go back to what it was before I had contacts, which is many years ago. So it's just this sort of feeling of having this 20/20 vision again. It's strange, but it's like an underlying feeling. So that was really interesting when you brought up eyes, because
maybe we'll all get 20/20 vision back again. I don't wear contacts. Well, good, but I don't.
I think it will be better than 20/20 vision. I think we're going to see it in a way we've never. I mean, listen, right now, what's happening is our bodies are shifting and changing. And this could be a 10-year journey for some people. And this could be a sudden journey for other people. And the children are coming in and they're already changed. And so where our bodies have to adapt and react to this change. And that's what they said. That's essentially what the Ascension Symptoms mean. That's what we're talking about. And I think that we're going to transition into like a whole new superhuman in a good way, you know, because we're going to know our power. We're going to have so much light coming in that we probably will shimmer in some way. But the tinnitus, I want to just touch upon, because everything you said is absolutely correct. I've been working with people with it for years, and it has a lot to do with the vibration and energy coming forward and all sorts of things. But I had a session with somebody the other day. Actually, this was very recent. It reminded me of it. This was like a week ago. And she was having ringing in her ears. And I said, well, let me just ask. I always tell people, well, this is what I get a lot, but you know, I'm going to ask for you to see if we get something else, because who knows what's going to come through. And that's why I asked. And her guides told me that it's a form of light language, even though it sounds like a ringing. She is actually receiving communication from her soul family that she's perceiving as a ringing, but the soul, the connection, the consciousness knows exactly what the message is, and then it transmutes back in some other way. And I was like, oh my God, that's blowing my mind. Like, that makes a lot of sense, but I had never thought about it because I never asked, or I guess I never got that answer before. But it's so that could very well be you communicating with your family back home, and you may not understand the message, but I guarantee you, your higher consciousness knows exactly what the message was. And I think that is pretty fascinating. I didn't know that.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
because
wow.
it has been really hard for me to identify exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with these sounds and this communication, because sometimes, as I said, it goes on for 2 weeks in a row. And
I always say to you, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah,
And you're like, I don't know.
one psychic told me it was my grandfather that was communicating with me, and I thought, oh, that's nice. I like that. But then I thought it's too much sometimes. It didn't seem quite right. But, you know, maybe that's another angle of it. Maybe, you know, there are some things intertwining in there. But it's very, very interesting. And yes, while it is annoying, I do like having the ability as well, because I'm sure one day I'll be able to tap into it, and I'll be able to perhaps intercept the messages and do something else with it, something else that's good for people on this planet. So yeah, more to come on that. Stay tuned.
Sherri, we just wanted to quickly touch on 5D, just because we've had quite a lot of questions come through of people saying, look, I still don't understand what that means. I don't know how to feel it. I don't know really what it is, because that term gets thrown around a lot. And I thought today, because we're talking about merging body and soul and, you know, reconnecting all that together, what we love about you so much is that you do explain things in simplified terms so people can really understand it and integrate it into their lives. And yeah, you just have this really beautiful balance of explaining things that are more esoteric, but then bringing it back into the 3D reality.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I try. You know, I work with children, so I always think, like, how can I explain this to a child? Not to make anybody feel like I'm trying to put anyone down, but I like it when people talk to me at that level too, because then I can understand it. And so I think it's confusing because we're putting numbers on it. So we just take the numbers out, because despite what some psychics say, there are I don't believe that there are spaceships that are going to come down to Earth and that are going to take us to another Earth. There are not two Earths. That is a bunch of baloney. I think so. We're not leaving Earth. Earth is a beautiful planet. Absolutely nothing wrong with Earth. Zero wrong with Earth. Okay, we're not leaving Earth.
That was kind of like freaking me out, that whole thing, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I'm so glad that you said that today.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, remind me to talk about the ascension after this. Ascending. Remind me, but I don't want to get off on a tangent right just yet. Sometimes my mind goes everywhere. So I have to reel myself back in. What was I saying? So Earth is a beautiful planet. Absolutely nothing wrong. She's a consciousness. incredible being that is hosting us on this planet. The animals are a part of her, the plants are a part of her, the rivers, everything is a part of her. And there are even human beings on this planet that are fractals of her that came in to be in the physical, which we talked about in another interview. So we won't get into that right now. But human beings, we are evolving, are those that choose to become human beings. Their soul inhabits has a human experience here on Earth. We are evolving into a higher consciousness. So our densities are shifting. And what's happening right now is we are going into a higher dimensional realm of reality, but we're not leaving this space. There could be multi-dimensions on this Earth's plane, and it's what our consciousness has access to, what we're able to see. This is why children can see angels and many adults, for example, and a lot of adults cannot, because the children can tap into another dimensional field that we as adults, because we have all these blockages, we are in the same physical space as that child, but we don't see it because it's in a different dimension, a dimensional field, because they can overlap. And so what we're doing is we're just going into a higher dimensional field of reality where we have the ability to tap into a higher knowing. Our senses will shift. We'll have a general, a much more defined knowing about certain things, where we won't be able to be manipulated as easily. We are going to be more in tune with our intuition. We are going to be more fulfilled, more at peace with doing things with our life that bring joy, and we will want to collaborate because we won't be in a dimensional reality of the fear matrix, which causes divide and war and conflict. We will be out of that reality, and then we will see the benefit of collaboration and unity and oneness and all of that. That's what the children are here to teach us. And so hopefully this is making sense. So we're not going to a different place. We are just ascending. Well, I'll go into it now.
Yes.
A false programming that we have had for centuries of time is that we have to die in order to ascend. A lot of religions will teach you that. And we're constantly trying to rush through our life and do what, so that we could ascend after we die, and then we don't get the benefit of it in this life. And that's what we need to learn right now. We're being taught a very big lesson in this world, that we need to get control of our evolutionary process that's both individual and collective. And that has a lot to do with our sovereignty and our discernment and how connected our soul is to this body, and how we navigate through our journeys. And we can absolutely ascend here, because we don't ever fully ascend. It's an ambiguous term. We are continuously ascending as we go into a higher consciousness by learning things, by experiencing things. Challenges are not a bad thing. We're not going to go into this new earth and suddenly there is no conflict and there are no challenges. That we have to have something to strive for, something to do, something to learn from. But we can get rid of the evilness and the greed and the hunger and the manipulation. All of that can shift. But we have to, again, we're free willing participants. So we can decide if we are in control of our shadow side, because everybody has darkness in them. Every single person on this earth has darkness in it. It's our shadow side. We've talked about it before in a previous interview. We have control of that. And that's what I try to teach through workshops, through one-on-ones in my first book, is keeping control of that shadow side, because we all have it. It's the ego. And unfortunately, the third dimensional reality that we have been in has programmed us to be in that cognitive, analytical, self-driven, egocentric demeanor and mentality, and we've lost connection with our ability to understand that we can control it, and we have so much more potential if we tap in and we go away from that ego and we tap into our higher consciousness that is vast and infinite of possibilities. And so I believe right now this is a huge lesson for all of us, to learn that we do not have to leave this planet to ascend. We are ascending right now together, collectively. And a lot of the children are coming in to help us see that, to help heal us. I know for a fact that my 3 children have all contributed in some way to help heal me, to help heal my inner child of wounds that I had, traumas, limiting beliefs. You know, they did that for my husband. I'm sure all the children on the earth are affecting people that aren't even in their family in some way, because we are all ascending in this life, in this reality right now. We don't have to pass away to ascend.
Oh yeah,
Such a good point.
Yeah, I love the way you said that, Sherri, and that's what I feel as well. It's that you're here in this human body right now. I think for us, it's been a thing to strive for in terms of living in a higher consciousness, but experiencing life in this human form and having that peace and joy in life, and being able to experience that as we are on Earth in this body, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, people working towards that. And we feel like when we're doing our work with you on the Aramis, which we're going to talk about very, very shortly, it's a very sort of fluid thing, and it's very organic how it's sort of unfolding. And for us, that feels like sort of a 5, I don't want to say 5D, because we don't want to label it like you said or give it a number, but it's that kind of experience that I think we'll be feeling more and more as we move forward. And everyone will probably start to feel this in different ways with what they decide they want to focus on and what they feel that their heart and soul is called to do. For us, it's this project with yourself, and it does feel very 5D. So I keep saying 5D, but it feels like that because it's this beautiful thing that's kind of a little bit out of our control, but we just flow with it. And it's that fluidity that I feel like represents the 5D space to me, but also very much connected to the present moment. The power within the present moment feels also like a really good place, because it can bring you back to your alignment all the time without being so taken by energies and distractions. So
and you know, part of your question that you asked me is people are trying to figure out where they are, you know, and I get that question a lot. Am I in 5D, Sherri? Where am I?
yeah.
And I'll teach you how you'll know, because it's a collection of things. It's not just one thing. It's how you feel physically. Are you feeling energized? And it's like people have this, no matter what's going on in the world, or maybe no matter what's going on in their life, like they're still having money issues, or they don't have everything that they need or want, but they have this like sudden or overwhelming, or this sense of peace, of calm, or like knowing that things are going to be okay. And then this odd sense of excitement, but they don't know where the excitement is coming from. But they're like, you know, I'm really excited, and I'm at peace. I don't know why, but I am. And those are the people who also start to have more compassion for other people. They start to become more positive. They don't react, like even if they watch the news and they were to, you know, I dare you, watch CNN for 10 minutes. They could watch it and they'd be like, meh, they're not affected. They're like, meh, you know, they start to suddenly have inspiration and ideas of like what they could do. You know, I could do that too. I like what Sherri's doing. I want to help children. And then they start coming up with ideas, or I've always wanted to be an artist and my parents said I couldn't because I wouldn't make money. That's what I want to do. I want to have fulfillment in my life and joy. It's an attitude, it's a consciousness, it's a shift in who you are from the core, where you don't even have words for it, but you can just see it and feel it. And maybe perhaps other people notice it. That's how people, this is how I am trying to explain it in a way that those watching this can sit and have an inner reflection of themselves and figure out, where are you on this ascension timeline or path, journey, whatever you want to call it, that only honestly you know the answer to. You don't need me to tell you, because you know, because I guarantee when I tell people where I believe they are, they're like, oh yeah, I knew that. I felt that. But it's like they don't believe it. They almost need someone like me to tell them what they're already thinking. And I'm like, like everybody here is all knowing. Like, don't look at me as somebody that you have to get the answer from. That's what we're getting away from. We need to learn to trust our inner knowing, so that we don't need the Sherri to help me, or we don't need X person, or we don't need to go to our priest or whatever, my shaman, my psychic. Like we're moving into a time and space where we're going to be able to do that for ourselves, but we are so programmed not to trust our inner knowing, and we second guess it. But I guarantee you, everybody watching this right now, if they close their eyes for a second and they really thought about all the things that I just said, they would know right away. They may not say, oh, I'm in 5D, but they're like, I'm on the right path. I'm going in the right direction. I feel good about where I'm going. And that's what matters the most.
Yeah. It's just really about letting go of all of those old beliefs, those old patterns that you've got yourself into, and really sitting there and thinking, just taking a moment, like you said, just close your eyes and think, do I really like wearing this? Or do I really like listening to this music? Do I really like watching these programs anymore, eating these foods?
It's an awareness.
Being with these people,
Yeah.
whatever it is, whatever you're needing to, or doing this job. It's about, you're coming to that moment where you're going, I need to unlearn these patterns, and it will happen. You just have to let yourself go there. And if it is money that you've been always stressing about, which I know a majority of the world has always had financial issues to be stressing about, but it's about coming to that moment. And even if you don't have any in your life at the moment, you're not in that abundance phase yet, you will be, because you will once you let go of it, you won't be so nagged by it anymore. You'll actually let go of that fearful feeling around it, and you'll feel peace, even though you may not actually have it in the physical sense yet. But that will come. That will be one of the results that comes from letting go. And it is about letting go of all of those religions as well. Like I know, the church and things that has been teaching people as well. That's another big thing that's been controlling people. And like you said, with that ascension, we only ascend when we die. It's letting go of those concepts and opening your mind up to other things.
Yeah, there's so many things in that, Sherri, that I loved. I just want to quickly touch on in terms of beliefs. I love you bringing that up, and people get so stuck in their old belief systems, and maybe it's just as simple, like you said as well, just an awareness. Oh, do I actually like this? Do I actually believe in it? And a yes or no answer. And if you don't, then that's a simple letting go right there. You can just let go of that one thing right then and there, and then that's not in you anymore. It can be that simple. And that's why we want to talk in these ways, because we want to simplify for people, because it is so complicated sometimes, so many layers to all of this that we're going through. We're trying to bring it back down as simplified as possible for people to be able to understand and integrate into their lives. And also another thing I've noticed with what you manifest, I mean, sometimes you can have a really bad day and you're sort of like, well, why? I didn't manifest this into my life, but perhaps you did. And that's just maybe, like you said, an attitude. Like it's an attitude to what you're bringing in, and you don't have to look at it like, oh, that's terrible. I'm so low about this now. It's like, no, okay, well, I manifested that, but that was kind of like not quite what I wanted, but maybe I need to be a little bit more general in a sense and just align with myself and manifest in what's correct with my true alignment, rather than trying to just always attack goals and be disappointed. It truly is an attitude.
So now we're going to turn our attentions to an update regarding the Aramis Creative Learning Centres. So we're actually in the final stages of hiring the teachers for both the Australian and the USA time zones, which is really, really exciting. And we had a huge amount of applications come through, didn't we? I know we did for the Australian ones, and you did as well, Sherri, for your US teachers as well, expanding there. Oh my gosh, and there were so many just wonderful applications that came through. So we honestly can't thank people enough for putting in the effort and doing such a great job on that. If you haven't heard from us at this point, don't despair, because it's likely that we will be probably hiring more people soon enough in the not too distant future. So just hold your horses. It's likely we may get in touch to do more hiring going forward, but we just had so many, we were inundated. But that's fantastic. That's a good thing, right? That we had that many keen people out there.
I think we had over 100 applications.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah,
certainly was. So we'll have new classes coming up pretty soon that we're devising right now with some of the teachers that we have coming on board. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be launching that in March, right, Sherri? So the new classes. So keep referring to all of our social media links for all of that. All the details will be below this, and of course the Aramis Creative Learning .com website. So always go there and have a check to see what's happening and keep yourself updated.
I too am just so excited about all the teachers that reached out. I mean, there was an incredible amount of truly amazing, all the applicants, honestly, that we received. I wanted to hire every single one of them. But I think we are, again, if you haven't heard from me yet as well for the USA time zones, just sit tight, because we're going to be looking for a lot of teachers, and I'm trying to do this in a way that doesn't overwhelm myself, Julia, and Carly, because we have to vet each one and we have to create schedules and work with each teacher on the class. So it's a lot. So I just want you to know that it's a lot that goes into, it's not just about hiring teachers. So we will progress to bringing on more. But the topics are just, I'm super excited. I can't wait to start posting the new classes coming, because we have a really great variety of classes and teachers, and I'm very excited about it. So yeah, stay tuned for March when we start advertising for those classes.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful process, and it really does feel like we're building, fairly quickly, and it's very exciting to be a part of that, and
meeting the teachers and talking to them. It's been a really, really wonderful experience, hearing about their lives and their journeys to this point, and just the fact that so many people out there share this vision like we do. So we know we've got a lot of people out there that are willing to help and that want to. So that's just it's so good to know.
Now, Sherri, we wanted to talk about the Aramis Collective nonprofit that's been established, which is super exciting. Did you want to tell the audience a little bit about the Aramis Collective? And we know that the Aramis Learning Centres falls under that. But let's talk about the three tiers of the Aramis Collective and the new website.
Yeah, I'm very excited to announce this. We have we've launched the Aramis Collective. So the Aramis Collective is a nonprofit that has, I call it a trinity. And the Aramis Creative Learning Center falls within that. We have Sky Universal, which is, we've separated now. We will launch an entirely virtual reality center for children to take more workshops and extracurricular and field trip experiences in a virtual world. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So that's under there. Again, that's called Sky Universal. And the other division is Jordan Media and Publications. And that's where we will have all of our books, our short animated videos, and future films and documentaries and all sorts of goodies in that division. So I think people have figured out now that I've incorporated all three children into their own division. And so I'm really excited about that. And we are ready to start fundraising through the Aramis Collective nonprofit so that we can raise funding. We need funding for a variety of things, one of which, the main one we're working on right now, is to get our first physical location open in Florida. And we have placed, if you go on the new website, the aramiscollective.com, it's laid out as well as I could format wise to explain kind of the different phases and what we're raising money for. So we're really looking to make this a community, and any support that we can collect both monetarily and also just community support with more teachers and parents. We're really trying to build something quite large here that will shift the trajectory of the children and the future's children's children, generations to come. So this is, I feel like I'm exploding inside with excitement because it's more real now than ever before. And I know we talked about this before we went on to this video, that so much has happened. There's so much momentum. I'm so excited. I don't have the money to buy the land yet, but I feel like it's right there energetically. So we're really pumped and energetically just manifesting so many amazing things. And so I'd love for everyone watching this to please check out the aramiscollective.com new website. We're accepting donations through that website. We're using PayPal for right now, but if for larger donations and those of you that are really looking for, the tax write-offs and things like that, you can email me directly and it's on the website, and we can talk about how to do that. What else am I missing?
No, I think
we're covering it all.
Yeah, I think the website breaks down all the stages that we're working towards.
Yeah.
And what we need the donations for. The first one being the purchase of the land in Florida. So we have the goals, and a timeline set. So we're all very eager, the three of us, to meet those goals. And it's all about community support and involvement and co-creating this together. And there's just a lot of excitement bubbling, I think.
And thank you also to the people that have donated so far. Anything is greatly appreciated for all this, because as Sherri said, it's such a large vision. It's a very big project for us to take on, and we do appreciate anyone contributing however they can. And the new website is just, it's so easy to donate as well. It's just really simple, and I think that makes it much easier for people to go ahead and do that. So go and check that out.
We'll make sure that we leave the aramiscollective.com is the new website, so please check that out. Everything will be linked below the video, as we always do. But also to donate, we'll link that below this video. And also make sure you go to Sherri's Instagram. We've got our Instagram as well, and Telegram, and any other areas that we can, make sure you come across the new website. So
honestly, we could talk for hours and hours and hours, and we
No.
have to actually stop, don't we? Because there are other things we need to do. But look, it was a fantastic conversation. I hope the audience enjoyed it. They always love your video, Sherri. Again, go to all of those websites and check out all that information. And if you feel called to donate, please go ahead and do so. It will really help us with this project. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you all again next time. Sherri, see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherri. Bye.
Bye.